Joining us now from his home on the Eastern Shore via Skype is Redskins beat writer Mike Jones. Mike, thanks for joining us on Post Sports Live.
Oh, sure. Thanks for having me.
Mike, let's get right to it. The Redskins are out of the playoffs, 3-9. Is the rest of the season evaluation mode, and do you anticipate seeing a lot of the younger players?
It sort of shifts for evaluation mode, but at the same time, Mike Shanahan needs to win to kind of try to save his job, to help his argument, and he needs to show that these guys are still buying into his philosophy, that they're still fighting hard for him. So he can't go totally young. The first thing, if you want to lose your team, is you start playing young players and sitting veterans. He's under the firm belief that what he should do is continue to play the best players, and he'll evaluate some of those young guys in practices as they go against the scout team. But for the most part, it sounds like Shanahan's going to stick with his veterans and try to win this game. And basically, they want to continue to see growth out of Griffin. That's the other main thing out of these 4 games as they come down the stretch.
All right, speaking of Griffin, got to talk about Kirk Cousins. One, do you expect to see him at all short of a Griffin injury? And second, if not, do you expect to see a change in the play calling that would lessen some of the exposure of Robert Griffin III on the read option plays or the triple options?
I don't expect to see Cousins. Shanahan has said, and he was asked again about it yesterday, and he said only way basically is if Griffin gets hurt, and Griffin is not injured in any way right now. He's healthy. They are going to continue to just throw everything at him because they know that the only way that he's going to continue to work his way back into the mix, which has been a struggle this year, is for him to continue to play. It just depends on what the game plan calls for it. You saw that the Giants really were focusing on taking away Alfred Morris, and so that's why there was a lot of the zone read plays by Griffin. They're going at this as if they are still fighting for something. Shanahan said they want to play spoiler, and like I said, this is an audition for him and for a lot of these players for the future.
I'm wondering if Shanahan can salvage the relationship with Griffin and whether or not that's the most important factor as far as Shanahan returning for his 5th year.
That relationship, I think, will play a key role. I'm not saying that Griffin is calling any shots, and he's not going to go into Dan Snyder's office and say, get rid of this guy or keep this guy. But if he is asked, which, many franchise quarterbacks, their pulse on the head coach is taken. If he's asked, I think he would share, what he felt. And so I think that it is important that Shanahan has a good relationship with him. And I think Mike knows that. We've seen him handle this situation with care this season. I think some of the trust has been earned back. How much is still hard to say, and kind of like you said, these last 4 games will kind of determine.
Let's talk about the rest of the locker room. Obviously, it's critical, the relationship between Shanahan and Griffin, but what about the rest of the locker room, the veterans? What's their level of support for Shanahan that you sense?
They all support him. They've said a number of guys like Trent Williams, London Fletcher, Santana Moss, Brian Arakpo, any of these guys who are more outspoken players, they all say this is not a coaching issue. This is our problem. We are not executing. Logan Paulson said, we're watching things on game film. We're seeing what we need to do, and for some reason we're not able to execute it when we go out there. So they're not per se playing for Mike, playing to save his job. They said that's not really in their heads when they're playing games, but they do definitely support him and feel like that he is the man that can lead them back on track next year.
Last question on Shanahan's future, and this applies to the free agency class of next season when the Redskins are going to get some more money under the cap to spend. How important is it that Shanahan have an extension by that time, if he's still in place, to be able to lure some free agents?
Yeah, well, it's pretty rare that a veteran coach will go into his final year without an extension, although there are some instances. But I think that has a lot to do with it, and that's why Shanahan would like to have that contract extension. One, so he's not just looking over his shoulder every time there's a loss, wondering if he's going to get the hook, but also so guys know that he is in place, so he can sell that to free agents, saying, come here, we've got stability. They've got to be smart with this, and I think that's why having an extension for Shanahan probably would help as far as the sales pitch goes.
Mike, thanks for taking the time to join us. Plenty of storylines through the last 4 weeks of the season. We look forward to reading your coverage in the paper and online. Take care.
All right, thanks, you too.